So it's pretty late at night. I'm about to head off on a plane to Utah in the morning, but I had to talk about this new scene that Dallas just showed us from the live stream. It gave us so many big hints for episodes 4, 5, and 6, and some interesting things that are definitely going to happen. So let's take a look at this scene, and then I'll break it down for you. Let's jump in. Here we go.
Whether you've seen those or not, you can appreciate this. Here is a scene from the opening of episode 6. Check it out right now.
We'll watch this whole thing first, and then I'll break it down right after.
Let's go. Somebody get some water. You're okay, James. Give me some blankets. And the blanket. Get the blankets. Take it. It's not stopping. Just blood pressure. Watch yourself. Here, watch yourself. Don't get up. Don't get up. James. James, you're going to be okay. James, stay with us. Just keep a fan. Where do we go? He's teaching. Everywhere we go, just get someone in power. We're gonna need more wood. We need to dry these clothes before we catch our death. I was terrified. How can we ever go back there again? We should stay here in Berea for the time being. Talk about it later. Here, Big Jim, just one more sip, okay? Come on. Easy. James, you're gonna be okay. What does it mean? Is he bleeding anywhere else? Andrew, check his leg. Is he bleeding yet? The bleeding's not stopping. What's going on? What does it mean? Hey!
Ooh.
So the opening of episode 6, let's jump back into that one more time and talk about this. So there's a few things that we can catch right off the bat. Of course, we've been breaking down the behind the scenes, and we know this room pretty intimately from those behind the scenes moments. First of all, this is during Hanukkah. That is a huge point that we need to remember during all of this, because Hanukkah is such a key moment, not only for this scene here, but also for some other scenes that we're going to get very specifically in the Chosen Season 4 that we've talked about previously. And that gives us a lot of hints as to where this is coming from, and also where we're going to end off on for Season 4, Episode 5. So this is a really, really good point for us to kind of break down what's happening here and to be able to talk about it. So first off, I'll mention that previously to this, we got a scene from Episode 4 in which Jesus is telling them they are going to go to Jerusalem. Now, at some point here, we're going to see them going back and forth from here to Jerusalem. We'll talk about where here is in just a second, but let's play through this a little bit. So we see this empty room here. Those candles at the end there, I believe, are the menorah for Hanukkah. So that's kind of what tells us that. Very quiet. There's a letter on the table there. That's going to become important a little bit later. Now we see as everybody's rushing in, John knocks off that letter there. I'll turn this down just a smidge so you can hear my voice a little bit better. John knocks off that letter, he blows out the candles, and he puts Big James on the table here. Of course, we see Jesus and Simon carrying him at this moment. We've seen other portions of this in which we see some of the other aspects of this as well, which I'll get into in just a second as well. Now, there's a woman in the back room there who we don't recognize. At least I can't recognize her from this. This seems to be some sort of inn or something. So I'll just tell you up front, this is not the mission house. This is not Capernaum. This is Perea. Now, if you're not familiar with Perea and where that is, this is the other side of the Jordan, the area around Machaerus where John the Baptist was killed. But this is where Jesus goes after a very specific incident in Jerusalem in the Gospels. And so we're going to talk about that in a second. But this is some sort of hostel, some sort of inn where they're staying. It could be someone's home in which they're, they've been given access to as well. But obviously, housing 13 to 16 people is quite a bit to house in any location. So I wonder what the kind of circumstances here are as they're celebrating Hanukkah in Perea specifically. Now, clearly here we see as Big James is injured. He's got a big kind of bleeding wound on his head. And everybody during the live stream was freaking out thinking Big James was going to die as well. Read your scripture. Big James doesn't die until after the resurrection and everything else happens there. He is the first one out of the apostles to die, though. So that is a good thing to keep in mind. Now here we see Thomas. Of course, spoilers for episodes 1 through 3. Spoilers, last chance for spoiler stuff here. But of course, Thomas is having a big reaction here. You know why. If you've watched episodes 1, 2, and 3, and this is your last chance for spoilers, okay, all the spoiler people are gone. This, of course, is a huge thing from episode 3, Rhema's death, everything there. He's having a huge adverse reaction to this, another kind of catastrophic moment in their mission here, and Thomas is having to relive this over and over again. So here I love all the chaos and how they're all asking different questions. We're going to hear different things from kind of everybody. Get some water. Let's get these clothes dried before we catch death. You know, all these other things that are happening. Now, to be clear, this is happening because they ran through the Jordan away from Jerusalem into Perea. So they're running east from Jerusalem across the Jordan, through the Jordan River, and into Perea, back to this place where they were before. So to give us a little bit of a timeline, this is after episode 4. Obviously, this is the beginning of episode 6. So we're seeing episode 4, they're in Capernaum. At the end of episode 4, or in the middle of episode 4, they leave Capernaum and go to Jerusalem. And then at some point, they have a home in Perea that they keep on going back to. So during episode 5, they must go back to Jerusalem. And then something happens in Jerusalem, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then they run back to Perea, which is where they are here, kind of staying here instead of staying in Jerusalem where they were previously.
You're okay, James. Give me some blankets. And the blankets. Get the blankets. It's not stopping. Just apply pressure. Watch yourself. Here, watch yourself. Don't get up. Don't get up. James. James, you're going to be okay.
So we see here, Jesus actually picks up this note. Of course, there's no way for us to know what's on it quite yet, but it's got to be important to some extent. Maybe someone left them a note for when they were going to get back. So this is going to be important, I'm sure.
Stay with us. Just keep a Where do we go? He's preaching. Everywhere we go. Someone in power.
Could possibly be a letter telling us that Lazarus is sick, or that he's getting more seriously ill. That's definitely something that this could be.
We're gonna need more wood. We need to try.
Because Bethany is in between Jerusalem and Perea, so it would have been very close by.
Clothes before we catch our death.
So we got to get these clothes dried before we catch our death. Of course, it's probably cold, different things like that.
Terrifying. How can we ever go back there again?
So how can we ever go back there again? This is referring to Jerusalem. So here's what I think they're coming from, just to give you some more clarity. So Matthew chapter 10 is a big chapter that I've been telling you to read for season 4 specifically. This is where Jesus is claiming that he is God. One of the strongest moments in scripture where Jesus is saying that specifically to the Pharisees and Sadducees. Now in Jerusalem, he's having this conversation and he's telling people, he's teaching people that the only way to the Father is through him, right? That he is the good shepherd. And there's a lot of other things that happen here. Before Abraham, I am. There's a lot of things that happen in that moment there. And at the end of Matthew chapter 10, basically the Sadducees and the Pharisees start to stone Jesus and the apostles because he's claiming to be God here. And so this, I think, is one of the big fights that we're going to see in Jerusalem that we've seen in the trailers previously. And we've seen on the BTS end of things, we've seen fake rocks. We've seen these moments kind of building up, these big fights between the Pharisees and the apostles, and a lot of different things that definitely lead us to conclude that this is going to be right after Matthew 10. Because at the end of Matthew 10, specifically, it says that they tried to stone them, and then Jesus and his apostles ran across the river Jordan into the land of Perea. So that's where they went, right? So this definitely fits perfectly into that narrative and where that's kind of going through the Gospels here.
We should stay here in Perea for the time being.
And there we are with Simon Z. He says we should stay here in Perea for the time being. So that definitely concludes that we're here in Perea.
Later.
Here, Big Jim, just one more sip, okay? Come on.
Easy. James, you're gonna be okay. What does it mean?
Now, Judas says here, oh, what does it mean? Judas is going to start having a lot of struggles here. I think in episodes 4, 5, and 6, we're going to see him start to steal some money. And I think here he's really struggling with Jesus's teachings. I think a lot of them are. They don't know what Jesus is speaking about. They're not fully grasping the understanding of this gospel teaching that he's kind of going through. And they just don't get it. We have, of course, the gift of hindsight and understanding a lot of things that were explained to us through Paul and the apostles and James and Jude, Jesus' brothers, things like that. So here, Judas is really going through it, and he's not understanding what Jesus is saying here, I think.
Bleeding anywhere else? Andrew, check his leg. Is he bleeding yet?
The bleeding's not stopping. What's going on? What does it mean?
Hey!
And this is the beginning of the episode. You hear the theme song coming in right there, and that's the end there. So really, really interesting stuff. I'm excited for the next few episodes. I cannot wait till next week to watch episodes 4, 5, and 6. Wanted to get this video out to you guys before I had to leave, so very minimal editing here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and there's a ton of stuff to come. So remember, everything is going to be happening in these next few episodes as we have the rest of the 5 episodes that are left in this season. There are so many things that are going to happen here, and it's going to be packed. Each episode is averaging above an hour, generally. Even for the first 3 episodes, obviously, there was over 3.5 hours of content there for the most part. The next set of 3 episodes has even more content because it's about 20 to 30 minutes longer in the theaters than the first 3 episodes were. So it's going to be packed. Definitely be ready for that one. It's going to be a ton of fun, and come back here if you want to see all the explanations and breakdowns for The Chosen Season 4. And we've got some other projects we're working on right now too, different things that are in the works right now that I'm super, super excited about, even beyond The Chosen. So lots of stuff coming up. It's going to be amazing. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.